I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I have the roll call?
Councilmember Bach.
Here.
Councilmember Stimmel.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Present.
Councilmember Venezuela.
Here.
Councilmember Cervini.
Here.
And Mayor Thornton.
Here. Thank you. I'd just like to remind everyone to please turn off their cell phones or put them on silent. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. If there are no requests for any items to be removed, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
A second. Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next are council staff reports. I have just a couple things this evening. First of all, the Our Days Committee has been very busy preparing for our annual, well, this year it'll be Steamboat Our Days Celebration, or Our Days Steamboat Celebration. I'm not exactly sure how we're saying that just yet, but that will be July 27th and 28th. The evening of July 27th, we'll be having a movie in the park for the kids. This year's movie is going to be Coco's. And then on Saturday, we'll have the parade and then the event at Holly Park as well. And then there will be a concert in the park that evening to conclude the Our Days event. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and I'll be anxious to see everybody there. One thing I do want to mention to the council this evening is I have had a meeting with Mr. Lloyd Halverson. He is available August 25th for our mid-year council retreat, and it's Saturday, August 25th, and I just want to check everybody's schedule to see check their availability so I can confirm with Mr. Halverson.
I'm good.
Good? John's good?
Looks like I'm okay.
The date?
August 25th, Saturday. And we'll begin at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I would hope to be finished by no later than 2 o'clock. Okay, I'll go ahead and confirm that, and we'll get that scheduled.
Where are we going to have that, Mayor?
It'll be at Public Works. Yeah, thanks. So that's actually all I have this evening. Next on the agenda is the attorney's report. Mr. Cairns?
We are in the midsummer lull, litigation-wise. All the items I reported on last month are proceeding as I reported. Nothing new on any of them.
Okay. All right. Any questions for city attorney? Great. Next, council comments. Councilmember Bulf.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of items. I'd like to make a point of thanking Jeremy Workus for some time he took out from his schedule. A couple of weeks ago, he gave me a tour of the City Corporation Yard. Spent quite a bit of time with me, actually. He showed me almost everything over there, and was really impressed with how well organized the facility is. And I've been in, over the years, other shops with lots of guys working, and I've seen very few as organized as the one that Jeremy maintains. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Second item, I attended the EWC conference in Yakima week before last. That was June 26th to the 29th. I attended 8 specialized work sessions and the 2 general sessions. I don't want to bore you with all the things the topics that were there, but to give you an idea of some of the things that I attended was seminar about making a small town friendly to new ideas, leadership changes, finance essentials for elected officials, top 10 traits of effective council members, which was very, very interesting, and a program on strategic planning. So it was time very well spent at those programs. Okay. And that's all I've got.
Very good. Well, thank you. And yeah, thanks for attending the conference.
It's my pleasure.
EWC does a phenomenal job. Councilmember Stimmel.
Thank you. No comments tonight.
Okay. Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly,
I hope the citizens of this town appreciate what a nice town we have. I just drove to Ohio and flew back last night, and we live in a damn nice place, and it doesn't have mosquitoes that Ohio has. So it's great to be home, and we all live in a great place here. That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, welcome home.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Councilmember Valenzuela.
Well, I have to compliment Doug. He did go to the council. I went to the AWC meeting. I did as well. Very productive. Our more seasoned counselors have been to many of them, and you can't help but get something out of them. They represent us at the state. They do a lot of lobbying for us. They represent 182, I believe, small cities. They've always got legislative updates. They've always got targets that come forward. They sort of boil up from the council people. Last year, we were there and we pushed a lot on Growth Management Act, and they had a lot of stuff on Growth Management Act this time. So stuff percolates up from the council people, whether it be homeless or any of a litany of questions that other cities are having, and it percolates up through the AWC. They come up with really, really good, high-quality presenters. We had one of our people there this time, one of our hired consultants, and she did a heck of a job, and she was able to get a lot of issues that we have here in our city talked about. So, and I would encourage anybody to get on the AWC website and to look at the notes, just to see how in-depth everything is. It's very, very well done. They're a very, very professional organization. I think it's well worth the time. I would encourage especially the younger or less experienced counselors to make sure they go to these things. It's critically important to know what's going on in the state and to have those issues heard, and you get a chance to meet counselors from everywhere, mayors, people from all different walks of governance. There's always good presenters there that give information on signs, on all kinds of different things. So it's well worth counselors' times, and I know I always appreciate going there. I always pick up lots of stuff, and we're going to have a retreat. Some of that stuff that I picked up over there will be in the retreat. So
Great. Thank you, and thank you for attending. That's very, very useful. And next year, the AWC conference will be in Spokane, I believe.
That's correct.
We'll be sure to get that notice out as soon as I receive it. And if councilors want to attend, I would strongly encourage it. I'm definitely going to try to go next year. Councilmember Cerveny.
I don't have anything to add this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda are staff reports. We have two reports this evening. The first one will be from Chief Denny.
Mayor, council, citizens of the center, Chief Denny, the Center Police Department. Don't have anything really new, because we spoke about it briefly last time, but for the month of June, we have, bring up the SWAT call that we had here in town again. You see there that we had the Southwest Washington Regional SWAT team in town, who took 18-year-old Dalen Esef into custody on June 7th, 2018. Standoff lasted about 2 hours, as you see there, and he was taken into custody without incident. Thankfully, no one got hurt, either the police or Mr. Esef, and it all went well because of their planning that they did and the amount of officers that they brought in to help out. He was wanted on a felony warrant out of Clackamas County, as you can see there as well. So, also in June 12th, we had a drowning at Paradise Point State Park, and a man there was from the center, Michael Keith, 41. He was struggling in the water. The bystanders saw him out there, tried to get help. When a kayaker tried to help him out and couldn't get him out of the water. And then the fire and rescue brought teams in and actually recovered his body the next day, unfortunately. And he drowned in about 20 feet of water there. The water was about 55 degrees at the time, so it had no life vest on or equipment. So that's an unfortunate incident. always when you're going out there, especially the kayakers and all that good stuff, make sure you're wearing your life vest, because I see a lot of them tipping over and they don't think they're gonna get tangled up in the weeds or whatever in the river, and next thing you know, they're fighting for their lives, so please wear your life vest. The next page is basically the stats for the month of June, and as you can see, it was actually a fairly slow month, which was good. Our traffic stops are up. We had 81 traffic stops. We had 4 drunk drivers taken into custody. We had some traffic issues and hazards, but other than that, the typical stuff, we had an AED call, cardiac arrest calls, and we had a stolen vehicle that was recovered later on. And we assisted, obviously, the fire department on numerous calls as well. And we also assist Ridgefield Police Department on a lot of their calls in their city. We're back them up, and they back us up as well. So, other than that, there was an issue brought to my attention about this week's yard sale, and not an issue, but potential traffic mitigation plan. We don't have a plan in place for the yard sale this weekend. The permit was issued. We don't think there's going to be any major concerns. However, somebody suggested that we have all right-hand turns coming into town off of Center Road onto Fifth Street, and then from Fifth Street onto Aspen and then around, so the businesses get exposure, and then they go up Cedar and into the neighborhoods and things that way. We discussed it. I don't think it's important to have that in place as far as the signage and detours and all that at this point in time. However, the officers will be out and about, and if there is an issue there, they can address it as they need to and direct traffic as need be to get traffic flowing. So it shouldn't be a problem, hopefully. But there is going to be a lot of traffic in town. We've got that event going on, and then in the evening we have a concert in the park as well. So it's going to be a busy day for the center. Yeah. Any questions, concerns?
Chief, I've got a couple. I'm curious about traffic accidents. 8 accidents. Are these all in town, or some of them out at the junction?
A mixture. Junction, you're talking about our roadway in the junction. We
Yeah,
take
exactly,
accidents
yeah.
up there, yes.
And then on traffic stops, same thing. How are those?
Yeah, I mean, all of our traffic stops are being, obviously, there's onesies and twosies here and there when we're going to and from maybe Ridgefield and back, but most of those traffic stops are occurring in the city of La Center.
In the city, okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief. Good report.
Thanks.
Okay, next, we have a staff report for the Public Works Department. Tony Cooper, our city engineer, is here this evening to answer any questions that the council may have, and I've asked him to also give an update for the roundabout construction. So I don't think it's necessary that I actually read the report. It's pretty lengthy, but Tony, if you could just give a little update on the roundabout construction.
Mayor, City Council. So you can see the roundabout's going pretty good. There's a lot of earthwork that's been done in the center. You see a block wall along our Public Works building. That is at the height that it's going to be, except for the cap block that's going to go up there. So they've been installing curb and gutter, and they've been waiting for some of the utility companies to move some of the facilities. All of them are relocated, Northwest Natural, TDS, and Comcast. They're all relocated except for the water line that's running down the center of 4th Street. You can see a big mound, and that's the water line. So the contractor is installing a bypass water line up Aspen Avenue. That's what they've been doing for the past week. They are anticipated to finish that by the end of the week and do their pressure testing sometime in the middle of next week, and they'll be able to hook that up and pressurize that, and then start taking that water line out to south in the middle of 4th Street. Once they do that, they'll be able to do a lot more work. They're planning on doing some spot curb and gutter work where they can in the meantime, and also start some of the block wall footing in the center island. And then they will start what's called a median barrier along that block wall. That's going to be a kind of a median barrier with a walkway. It's really kind of an impact slab too for traffic, to prevent traffic from going over. So it's heavily reinforced, so they'll be working on that. So the next few weeks, they'll be doing a lot of flat work and continuing on grading and putting curb and gutter in. And I think that's pretty much what
Great.
they're
No,
going to,
no, that's
just
great.
general grading and base work. Is there any questions on anything?
Tony?
Yeah.
I was at Public Works today and noticed that the little street that's between Public Works and the park was pretty torn up. Will that be repaired before the
Well-
weekend because of the concert and stuff? Or maybe-
Where the steel plate is, you mean?
Yeah, there was, well, the entrance to the back way out of your parking lot was blocked. I mean, there's gonna be
Yeah.
people parking in there, this weekend. Is that gonna get cleaned up, or is that just the way it's gonna be?
Well-
Or are we gonna block it off completely?
No, I mean, they won't, Aspen Avenue won't be blocked off.
No.
There might be some, I mean, there'll be some just construction of just base and I don't know that they're gonna have that steel plate next week, but I think they might take that out. But there shouldn't be anything blocking it other than just the general.
I'm talking
base.
about the little piece of street between the park and we look out of your office.
Yeah.
Out the teller window there.
Yeah.
That little piece in there
That's
was
Aspen.
pretty torn up today.
Yeah,
And people-
and they will be backfilling that. Like I say, they'll be done with that water line work by the end of the week. Pressure testing, how much they clean up, they'll probably clean up a bunch of it. I can ask them to see what they're gonna do
Well,
on that, but they're gonna be finishing that this week. So
Okay.
they should.
It won't be
should clean that up a
repaved,
little
but
bit,
it will
won't
be, they'll be able to get on it.
Just so it's serviceable, either
Yeah.
serviceable or block it off so people
Yeah.
can't get into it.
No.
Yeah. No, they plan on finishing that up, I think,
Okay.
this next week.
I was just concerned
So-
because of the people that will be
Yeah.
at the
No,
park on
that's a good
Saturday.
point.
I'll talk about it with them and make sure they clean
Yeah.
everything up. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anything else?
Just how's the scheduling? Is it
Well,
on target pretty much, or?
Right now, we're just getting 3-week look-ahead schedules from the contractor. It's hard to determine an end date right now because there's been some utility delays, and so the contractor is kind of working around things. They want to get paving by October, but that's, hopeful to do that. They usually try to pave in October, so a lot of the concrete work would be done before then, before they pave. But right now, it's kind of hard to tell, but that's what they're shooting for. So kind of late October, early November, yeah.
No, very good. And only one other thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the pavement preservation, has that been completed?
That's been completed.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cough Construction completed that last week, as well as the Relight project, all of the LED lights, that are the city lights, there's 205 have been, those have been installed also. So those two projects are done. There's some paperwork that has to be done, but they're
Work is done?
done, yeah.
Yeah, very good. Excellent. Okay, Tony, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Good report. Appreciate it. Appreciate all that you're doing. Tony is going wide open these days. Okay. Next on the agenda is citizens' public comment. If anybody would like to address the council, please step up to the podium and give us your name and address, and if you could please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Mayor, council, and people. Nella Perryman, 824 East Pioneer Loop. Chief Denny took my report that I was going to do on the citywide garage sale. And I believe we have over 90 homes. So there's going to be a lot of traffic. So anyway, be prepared. Second thing on my list, I would like everyone to wish Skip Carlson a happy birthday.
39.
Another lap around the sun.
Yes, I know.
Well, that's a hard act to follow. Larry Luden, 1109 West C Avenue, West Center. Folks, council, Actually, this is for Chief. I'm coming across today, the bridge, and I see this semi, just the tractor, no trailer. And he's up the middle of the bridge, and he's already probably doing 50 knots. I can tell this guy, because he's just coming down that road. And by the time he got to the end of the bridge, where the 50-mile-an-hour line starts, he's probably well doing over that. So I've got my hand out like this, going, anchor down. 30 seconds later, right behind him, about a 10-ton flatbed comes following at the same pace. And I'm thinking, boy, get a couple of our guys out there sitting with their guns, a couple of 2-3 times a month, get the word out there that we won't tolerate it, and I bet that behavior goes away. I mean, big trucks like that doing that fast on that bridge, no, that's not right.
Anybody,
What's that?
everybody going that fast.
Well, I don't know.
No, I mean,
My personal feeling
I'm not
is-
saying everybody, but anybody that's going that fast should be
Well, yeah,
dealt with.
exactly, anybody, and you would think, and they weren't associated with the construction, they just
No,
had to be commercial rigs, and I thought, come on, you gotta add 30 seconds onto your trip because you can't go 55
Yeah.
miles an hour across the bridge. I come into that town and I anchor down when it says 25, I'm doing 24, and I've had more than 1 or 2 people get right on my tail like, hey,
Yeah.
buddy, go faster. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, Dennis Hill, 1316 West Alder Place, Mayor, Council, citizens. Just a kudo out to Public Works for what they've done down on the backside of the treatment facility for parking. Opened that grass area, mowed it down, and that whole area now, they could probably put 50 cars in there roughly, or something of that nature, I don't know, but we parked down there last Saturday, and it was great. And I think we're only like there was like 3 or 4 cars down there, but soon people are going to find it out. It's wonderful. You can actually go out, drive in there, get ready to pull out, and it's great. But kudos to Public Works Mayor.
Yeah, well, thank you for
in
that.
doing that. No, whose idea that was. Thank you, Joe. You going to take credit for that?
No.
No, okay.
I was out of town, can't
Oh,
blame
Liz,
me.
thank you then. Okay. No. Anyways, thank you.
I think to appreciate you mentioning, Jeremy worked this, that was his idea, and he checked it out with the fire department before he made it available, and good job. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. You bet.
Take them a plate of cookies and they'll get through.
He's on vacation for a week.
Okay.
So anyone else this evening? Well, then I would like to take this opportunity to wish Mr. Carlson a happy birthday. That's great.
Official from the mayor.
No proclamation, but, that's great.
ID of sound mind.
Okay. So, next on the agenda, we do have a presentation this evening. Laura Ellsworth is here with the Council for the Homeless, and she's going to present a homeless action plan for the council. Thank you very much for being here, Laura, and Laura shared with me just before the meeting that she grew up in Lucerne, so welcome home.
Thank you. Yeah. This is going to tip over because I'm so short. Let's see. Okay.
Yeah, would you please?
Turn
Yeah,
it around
you gotta
that way.
make it.
Do it 180.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Talking about that bridge, I have muscle memory, so when I came into town, I was like 25. I learned to drive, and I learned the hard way on that. Not too much of a hard way, but I had my heart pounding a few times seeing someone there watching. So, all right, yes, thank you so much. So I am here on behalf of our Executive Director, Kate Budd. I am with Council for the Homeless. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Manager. I don't know how many of you have heard about it, but we are in the process of updating our county's homeless action plan. And we do it, it's something that we do every 4 years. Oops, not that way. Let's see. Just scroll. Got it. Okay. I just wanted, we've made a point to go out to all of the jurisdictions around Clark County and just talk to folks about what we're doing, what it's looking like, and also we did 7 community forums around the county just for the general public throughout May and June, and gone to, I think now we've hit almost every jurisdiction, and just really wanting to get the word out about the plan itself, the update process, and I also want to plug, we have a survey, and it's actually open until Friday. I'll leave these flyers here, but it's online on our website, and we're looking for people to take it. We want to get as much feedback as possible, right now, I think I last checked this morning, we've had about 750 responses so far, which is fantastic. We're getting responses from the general public, from people who are direct providers of services for people experiencing homelessness, and then also from people who are experiencing homelessness themselves. So really great. So taking a step back, though, just kind of letting you know what does Council for the Homeless do. If you're not familiar with our organization, we are a nonprofit, and our mission is to lead our community's efforts to prevent and end homelessness. Sounds great, right? So we do that a few ways. We do that through leadership, engaging with our community, through outreach, education, and understanding around homelessness, identifying and monitoring the needs of each community in our county. So we do that through extensive data collection and analysis. We also convene and collaborate with the other providers in our community around homelessness, just everything that it takes to really, address the issue, from meeting basic needs and shelter, to job training, to education, to life skills, just anything to get people housed and stable again. We do it through advocacy. So, for example, the city of Vancouver in 2016 passed a levy, a property tax that goes towards prevention for homelessness. So anyone who lives within the city limits or is moving to the city limits can qualify for these funds. And then also statewide initiatives during the legislative session. There's usually some legislation that we're working on as well or supporting. Then we also do it through actual solutions. So one of the things that we do is we have a severe winter weather plan in place, and we actually have providers who, they're different churches, who open up their doors when the weather is below 32 degrees, there's snow or ice in the forecast. And we have 3 churches right now in Vancouver and 1 in Washougal, and we're actually looking for a church here in North County. It's really hard for people who are out here to get themselves into Vancouver to get shelter, and it's even harder when the weather's bad and the roads are bad. So we are going to convene a meeting probably in late August, have a kind of an open house roundtable around that, have some of the churches who are doing that talk about their experience and what it's been like. But if anybody here knows of any churches who might be interested in providing shelter on those severe winter nights, please let me know, because I would love to reach out and get something going up here for folks. We also operate our Housing Solutions Center, and that is sort of our single point of coordinated entry for people into the homelessness system in Clark County. So we partner with over 40 different agencies to provide services for folks based on what their needs are and what they qualify for. Why we are here doing this homeless action plan. It's an opportunity to chart a collective path forward. It's a way that we sort of identify what our priorities are within our crisis response system for homelessness. It's a way to sort of achieve specific outcomes in a really intentional way. And it's also a state requirement that we do it. So here we are. So I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of background because the last time we did this was in 2014 and it was adopted by the county council in 2015. And things have changed a lot, and I'm sure you all have seen this firsthand. In 2014 we were coming out of the Great Recession. There were funding reductions, as there often are during a recession, as far as homelessness services, tax dollars, revenue. Everything's down during a recession, and yet needs go up. Average rent, which we thought was really high in 2014, for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath in Clark County was $900 a month. Now it's over $1,300 a month. It's like $1,330. So that's a huge increase in affordability. And that is really, I think, probably like, as somebody who's somewhat new to this issue, what I saw, the first thing that everybody seemed to feel as we were coming out of the recession was rising property values. And it definitely, translated into rent. And then vacancy rates really kind of stayed stagnant. Because what happens during a recession is building also halts. So we had this, it's like this perfect storm. Although I do have good news on the vacancy aspect, we did just get an analysis of our vacancy rate in Clark County, and it is at a just about healthy rate. Healthy is considered 6% vacancy, and I think we were at 5.8%. So a little bit of a bright spot there. And also our population has been skyrocketing and wages have risen, but just not nearly at the rate as rising rents. So hard for people to keep up. And one of the things that I learned that was surprising to me that I think is significant is that for every $100 a month that rent goes up, it leads to a 6% increase in homelessness in urban areas and a 32% increase in homelessness in rural areas. So it hits people, in smaller communities harder. So the last time we did this, 2015, our plan identified funding priorities and helped us, again, be intentional with our dollars, with our energy, our strategy. And what we did is we increased our Housing First permanent supportive housing capacity by 54 beds in Clark County. We increased our street outreach by 2 staff. We hope to keep doing that. And those are the people that actually go out to the people who are living outside and just try to build that trust and get them connected to the services at our Housing Solutions Center. There's a lot of mistrust. Sometimes it takes 5 or 6 attempts for people to finally believe that they can get help or deserve help. And so really that's a pretty labor-intensive task. We increased 18 single female beds in Vancouver, which is important because single females are some of the most vulnerable people living outside. They don't have a partner or anyone with them, a friend to protect them. And homeless people are actually they're much more likely to be a victim of a crime than they are to commit a crime. And you're very vulnerable as a single woman living outside. And it also tends to be one of the populations of people that are least likely to be prioritized because people want to prioritize kids and families and veterans and disabled folks. And it's just, we want to prioritize everybody. But so we were able to do that and hope to keep doing that. We also increased our rapid rehousing programs by over 40 households. And then a program called Diversion, which is somewhat new since, I think it got started in 2015. We were able to increase that. And last year we served 93 households, and we're on track to do even more this year, especially through that levy that was passed in 2016. So Diversion is something that's kind of great because it diverts people from actually entering the system. And so basically it's just coaching, it's sitting down with people, helping them identify their own solutions, which they often have. They just need someone to talk them through it. And then if it requires a small amount of money to help get them back, on their feet, keep them stably housed or get them stably housed, as quickly as possible, then it's really successful. It's got like a 90% success rate, which is really great, which means that the people that were housed through diversion were still housed 2 years later. This is kind of a hard to read graphic, but the big picture gives you an idea of what's happening. So you may have heard recently there's been a lot of press that we had a 40% increase in people living outside from 2016 or 2017 to 2018. And the main thing to look at in this graphic is that you see how the purple and the green are diverging away from each other. So the green are the people who are homeless but are living in shelter, and the purple is the people that are homeless living unsheltered, living outside. So that number is rising, and then the number of people in shelters is decreasing at the same time. It wouldn't be so bad if the green was sort of following the purple, but it's not. It's going the wrong direction. So, as I'm sure you have all witnessed, it's just a growing problem. And it's really something that's impacting the entire county. It's a challenge for the whole county. We're having, people who are homeless in every corner, which brings us to the opportunity in that, which is that everyone is talking about it. There's broad interest around it. We do have additional resources right now. We really are getting a strong community voice, as evidenced by the number of responses from our survey and just our community meetings that we've had. We've had good attendance at that. And we do have good data on this. So we're part of this homeless management information system, which is something that is done in every community that has a coordinated crisis response system in the country, and it's the same system. So we're really able to track what the need is, who's being served, demographics, successes, failures, all of that stuff we're able to sort of analyze and really get a good picture of what we're doing through our data, which is really great.
Question of your data looked like, 700 or so? What is that on your chart?
Yeah, approximately
About 700 in the county?
Yep, and so that's through
And how many hidden are there?
Yeah, so exactly. So that's through our point in time count, and that is definitely very much an underrepresentation of the real picture. However, it is a way to have apples to apples comparisons from year to year. So that increase of 105 people who are unsheltered last year is consistent, and it's based on consistent counting and data. And it also, the demographics around that mirror what our Housing Solutions Center calls have been like as well. So for example, we saw our senior population triple, and that's confirmed through the calls that are coming in. We saw our veteran population double, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a point in time count. Every community does it, and we do it the third week of January every year. It's just literally people going out and counting the number of people that they can find living outside. Okay, so our plan for this year, I've kind of touched on this a little bit already. We are doing this homeless action plan survey. It takes about 15 minutes to do, so it does require some thinking, some thought, because it really is a complex issue. There's no one size fits all approach, and we know that. So it's a meaty little survey, but we really do appreciate people's feedback. We've had these meetings all over the county, which has been great. We're also going to have some feedback meetings in September, so I'll keep you posted on that. Actually, I think off the top of my head, we are having a meeting in Battleground at the United Methodist Church in the evening, I think from 6 to 7:30 on September 11th. So if anyone would like to come to that and see a first draft of our plan, we would love to have you. We're also having another one at the Vancouver Housing Authority in downtown Vancouver, or in kind of Uptown Village. And then we're going to do one in Washougal and one at Partners in Careers. So really, again, we're going to be deep diving into best practices and promising practices from all over the country, and even looking into things, what's being done in other areas like Canada. Really just, as we develop this plan, we're writing the plan now, and taking into consideration the feedback that we've had from meetings, the surveys. what other communities are doing, what's unique to Clark County, and just analyzing the data that we do have. So we'll have that draft in September. We're going to present it to the Vancouver City Council and then the County Council for final approval. And that'll be probably late September for the County Council and hopefully early September with the City Council. So, let's see. I think that is basically that. I had a graph, and I apparently did not load it up correctly, but I did have a graph that showed the number of calls that have come into our Housing Solutions Center from North County communities. I had Ridgefield, La Center, Yakult, and Amboy. So going off of memory, I think the peak year for calls from La Center was 2017. We've actually 2016. We saw a little bit of a decrease in 2017. I think we had around 40 calls from La Center. Battleground was obviously the highest amount of volume of calls, but we definitely had, people from North County calling our housing hotline needing services. So, again, there's our survey, there's the website, and that is it. So if you would like to fill out our survey, we would love to get your feedback. It's really important that we get feedback from people outside of downtown Vancouver too. So, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any. Yeah.
The graph that showed sheltered and unsheltered seemed to show a trend of decreasing sheltered over several years. Why is that? Is it
well, just
availability
last
or-
year. Yeah. Yes.
503 down to 420?
Yeah, from 2017 to 2018. Yeah, so basically it's capacity. We just don't have the beds that we once had. And, we're only able to shelter about 40% of the people that come to us for help. And we're able to permanently house about 10% of the people that come to us. So school districts have also been probably another reason that you see this going up is school districts have really become strong partners in helping us to identify families, and so we're knowing more about who is experiencing housing instability or is homeless than we did before as well. So
Thank you.
Anybody back here? The weird, talking with my back.
I'll ask a question.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask that. So do you have to interact with veterans? Because what I'm thinking is veterans could be handled by the VA system, and that's gonna pull you away in your resources if you could direct VA veterans to veteran facilities rather than you having to do that. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
But I know there are services available for the veterans.
There are, yeah. One of the things that we did based off of our last plan is we started a Veterans by Name program. So we actually know every single homeless veteran by name in the community and can interact with them that way and build that trust, get them to the services that they need, and really, it's been really successful. I mean, they're still experiencing, a rise in the community, but it's definitely better than it would be otherwise. And I will say another bright spot is that the number of homeless families stayed the same from 2017 to 2018. So that is as a result of one of the things that we prioritized in our last plan. So that's another bright spot, is that it wasn't that there wasn't an increase in families, it's just that we were able to stave it off and keep that level the same. So.
Nowhere in here do I see how I'm supposing substance abuse must impact the homeless population and the willingness for some of those that are homeless being willing to seek shelter because the person that's impacted by substance abuse is going to say, oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So how does that figure into
Yeah.
does the organization take a look at that and see how that figures into creating these types of numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. So, interestingly enough, what I learned is that drug and alcohol abuse doesn't impact the homeless community any more than at the rate of the house community, which I was surprised to learn that, but I think that's because those are the ones that we tend to see. We're not seeing the families, we're not seeing the people who are in the shelters, and at the schools, and, but definitely one of the issues that we are working on, what we have heard is there are people who want to be clean and sober, and there are people that are not able to be clean and sober in their disease of being dependent on substances. So it's a matter of meeting people where they are, not having a one-size-fits-all approach. But one of the challenges that people will go into detox, and they'll come out, and then they'll get sent to Share House, which is our main shelter for single men in Vancouver. And there's using going on outside of Share House. And so some of them will just, and it's the only place that there's 3 hot meals a day. And then they won't go. They either won't go because they're afraid to and they don't want to be around it and they don't feel safe. Or they do go and they're very vulnerable to using again because now they're around it all again. And so it definitely is a challenge, and that is something that we're working on with the new plan. And definitely working very strongly with the behavioral health and substance abuse programs. That there are strong partners with all of this. So that's one of the things, that there's a new day center that's going to open up hopefully by November. That will hopefully help with that issue because they will have a place to go where there's not going to be a tent city outside with.
And the Council for the Homeless is this a portion of Clark County or Clark County Public Health, or is it a public sector organization, or is it a quasi-public-private sector? What's it? I'm curious.
We're just a nonprofit organization, and we definitely receive, federal funding through HUD. We receive state funding and local funding and private donations.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, that's a good question, actually. So I'll leave these if that's okay, and anyone can take it home, and it's kind of a long website, sorry about that, but I would love to have your input and have you fill out the survey before Friday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Rio.
Yeah, if you just leave it with Naomi. Thank you very much, Laura. It's a great presentation.
We've seen a big increase in seniors.
Okay, so next on the agenda, we do have a public hearing on ordinance 2018-13, amend animal regulations for the Center Municipal Code 6.10. In your packet, you do have a copy of the proposed ordinance as well as the ordinance itself. And in addition to that, we have a memorandum from City Attorney. This isn't quite ready for prime time yet. I think the City Attorney is looking for a little bit more direction from the City Council as to exactly what we want to include in the ordinance. So Mr. Cairns will be presenting tonight to the Council. I think he has some questions here that he would like to get some more input on. And after that, we will revisit the ordinance and probably bring it forward for adoption at the next City Council meeting. So with that, Mr. Cairns.
Thank you. This comes before you because of an incident in the spring where there's a dog at large and attacked another dog. And over the years, I've seen kind of increasing dog problems that are trending from the kind of a small rural town to more urban type pet problems. And this is consistent with that. So what a lot of cities have done is they ramp up the dog poop ordinance and the dogs at large and regulate them more strenuously than they have in the past. And so I put together this ordinance and packaged those two items and put them as a separate section. And then Chief Denny went over it with Danny Bowerman, and both of them have a lot of experience. I don't know so much with pet enforcement, but the enforcement usually falls to police in some fashion or another. To my knowledge, there isn't a whole lot of, I've never seen the police prosecute. There hasn't been a prosecution of any of these pet animal type regulations in my time here. So with that in mind, we do have a pretty streamlined civil enforcement chapter that these sorts of infractions usually go through. And so your chapter 610, the animal regulations generally, is pretty big. It has a lot of kind of traditional, rural, somewhat antiquated animal type requirements. You have your whole licensing program in here. And I guess the issues that these two items are dealing with fall into animal nuisances. And the comments I got back from the police department and from Danny are to kind of basically integrate it with the existing code chapter, and that's the best way to deal with it. And I can certainly understand that. So I guess some of the feedback I want from you is, do you want to start the conversion to a more kind of shorter, more streamlined, modern sort of animal control set of regulations, or plug these two sections in and I wouldn't say call it good, but see how it works. And what I would say is the substantive provisions that I've got here, they're on the last page. The dogs at large and the animal waste removal. Plug those into the nuisance section. It's, I don't know how many enumerated animal nuisances there are. There are like 20 or so. Anyhow, plug them into that. Yeah, about 20 of them. Ending with possession of roosters. And
Is that something we can pull up on the screen, Naomi, to track what Darren was talking about?
And then tweak the definitions a bit to maybe be more specific to address these two problems in a more kind of urban type sense, the way I've got it here. And that's a more comfortable format for the police, understanding that it never really gets prosecuted, but it allows, or certainly hopefully will facilitate more public education. Because if you're a pet owner, you know how this works. So it's at 090. So these are all of the enumerated nuisances involving animals, the various sorts.
The last one's the roosters, I think.
Roosters are at the very end. It's just, and that's something we've never addressed, or the urban rooster issue, or urban chickens. And the big issue there are roosters. But, its time will come probably within the next 5 years or so.
How many do we have?
And so this would plug in, so for example, the dogs at large is subsection 7.
Cats at large.
See how it's listed there, animal whether licensed or not, which runs at large. And so
That's rodent control.
it's, I don't know if they would really address the problem that gave rise to this, but what I would suggest is beef that up, make it more urban and comprehensive, and address the particular problem. And the other one, and it's not so much a dog poop ordinance, because I understand horses are a big issue here too.
Yes, they are.
So animal waste, plug that into subsection 15.
People used to laugh at me when I brought that up.
There you go. So, and then tweak the definitions a bit. The other thing is that a lot of this is criminalized. So go down to subsection 200. So I think that penalties for, are there, roll down a little, down, there. So a lot of these, like the exotic animals, the Class C felony strikes me as a little harsh there. I don't know what the chief thinks, but I can bet you aren't going to find any exotic animals at his house. But the nuisances would fall into subsection 2, an infraction, which should reference the civil enforcement chapter, which provides a process for addressing some of this. And $300 is a reasonable fine, or a maximum up to. So basically, the way this works, if you're a pet owner, it's all, pet owners will police each other. When you see people not picking up after their pets, the cops never see that, but other dog walkers do. And they, if there's something on the books and everyone knows it, they will get on each other about it. And I think that's how it will work. When you see someone walking their dog, the dog's not on a leash, and there are problems, you'll see other pet owners say, look, you're not allowed to do that. The city council adopted an ordinance, and that might be all it takes, I don't know. In Portland, you have to have your lawyer with you in these instances, and it becomes a big deal. So we're not there yet, but you can see how this works as you go from a kind of a rural, low-density context to where there's a lot of intense, pet activity in certain parks or in certain streets. You see a lot more conflicts arise.
Is this pretty much a boilerplate of what other small cities have?
Well, in the old days, yeah. I don't know how old this is. This certainly predates my time here, and that's over 20 years.
But you've seen it before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I guess, the first thing is you wanted kind of to showcase these two issues and have their own section, or do you want to integrate it with what you have here and save for another day a more comprehensive revision of this pretty long and complicated chapter? That's the fundamental question for you to address. Because if you have this ordinance that we could run up the flagpole for a hearing at the next hearing, or I could easily take the substantive portions of this, plug it into specific amendments to those sections, and do it that way. But in any event, it'll be on your agenda for adoption at the next hearing, next meeting.
Personally, I think right now the planning commission has its hands full. I mean, I think at some point, yes, we need to look at it and revamp it.
Well, I don't see this as land use, so I didn't even think about the planning commission's involvement.
So would you tackle this?
You would. I mean, we could revise this, and then you would do it.
That would
roll up your sleeves.
That would be our retreat task.
That would have, yeah.
I think we'd see a strategic.
That would be quick.
I mean, the planning commission is dealing with dark skies type ordinance, and that's not strictly land use, but it's certainly in their wheelhouse. I don't know that this is so much.
Right. So, one thing about the center, and I have to remind everybody that we are still a rather rural community. There are a lot of properties in the center that are 5-acre parcels, some are larger, and those properties do have animals on them. So we really have to think this through before we just start changing our ordinance. And if we were going to really make a comprehensive review of this whole chapter or this whole ordinance, is that it would definitely take some work sessions and some time for the council to really go through this. I think it was the intent when we went to talk about the leash law was to just get that included in the existing ordinance so we can at least address that. But it's actually quite an issue in the city of La Center, and I know that along our trails there are horses that do frequent the trails at certain times of year. There's even, I think, a family that provides horse trail rides, and but I mean that's something that's been going on in La Center for years and years, and they come from an area that's very rural, and they come into La Center, and again, these are some rural areas, and it's not something that I think we should just take a quick pass at and say we're going to make a few changes and call it good. So I appreciate you bringing that up this evening, Mr. Cairns. It needs to be addressed for sure.
Is there, Mayor, on this, and what Dan said about the code being more than 20 years old, would we be better off to find a more current code and dump the Etch-a-Sketch and cut and paste that into our new as a new suggestion.
Well, part of it is kind of that rural versus urban type model. So we haven't seen horses in my neighborhood in Portland for a long time, but you still do. And so some of it is is still appropriate, is still relevant. It's just we're seeing some of these urban problems. And maybe if it's just isolated to these instances, these episodes, we can do kind of a surgical, narrow, plug that in, community polices itself, and we wait, another 5 or 10 years. Because the first time this ever came up, I mean, it's back when you were mayor, Liz, and I think I was successful in kind of resisting an urbanization of the animal ordinances at that time. So I wasn't entirely successful this time because I think you have become more and more urban over this time.
Right.
And, well, these are the first urbanesque pet issues that you'll see, and you've got them now.
Let's not go overboard on this thing, in my opinion. Let's deal with the immediate issue. It's dogs that are not on leashes that attack other dogs or maybe even other people. At this
Focus
point,
on
I think my opinion, I think it's too early to do a complete overhaul.
Okay.
I'd say keep it simple. KISS principle. I mean, we got a couple issues here. Let's get them resolved. Let's get them in the ordinance. And, cities are great at coming up with regulations they can never enforce. And then you have to have a
Right.
dog enforcement officer and all. I mean, just, it manifolds itself. I think the idea of self-policing, individuals policing each other, the peer pressure, put the big red R on their forehead from a neighbor, that's usually much more effective than
Right.
even a police officer. That could be way more effective. So I just say keep it simple.
I agree, keep it simple.
Okay. Okay, I'll take then, with that, unless someone sees differently, take these substantive sections that I've got here, integrate them with the existing matrix and how you're structured, and we'll put off till later. Because also, one problem with kind of totally upgrading is people will sort of weaponize these sort of ordinances. And some of my more urban municipal clients, it's a full-time job dealing with these people calling, ratting out their neighbors for, honeybee violations, and the urban chicken violations, and those sorts of things. And, so this is why I've always resisted in La Center going too far. The cat licensing program, that was one I successfully batted away years ago.
Darn.
Has not served us good goodness. Okay, I think I see it.
Okay,
I'll
very good.
revise this, we get it on the agenda for adoption at the next meeting. And this is a public hearing, so there might be public comment on this draft. The
Yeah,
substantive
no, absolutely.
provisions
I will
remain.
still open up for public comment, unless the council has some other questions or thoughts before I do that. Okay, at 7:33, I'll open it up for citizen public comment. If anybody would like to address the council, please step up to the podium and share your thoughts.
Yes, Laurie Luton, 1109 West C Avenue, West Center. Council, folks, I just have a question. Give me a definition of at-large. If you have, like you pointed out, 5 acres, and your dog's running around on his 5 acres, is he still at-large? I mean, is at-large mean off your property? Or, I mean, that right there got me, because, and you brought it up, Mayor, when you said that. You got people around here, and if their dog knows to stay on their 5 acres, is he at large even though he's got 5 acres to run? So, yeah, it's interesting.
I think that's defined.
That there is a definition in the ordinance for that, so.
Well, I kind of figured it was off your property running,
Yeah.
and not under a leash.
Okay, very good.
The birthday boy is going to volunteer to pick up all the horses.
Skip Carlson. I just, the only comment, as, in the second whereas, and other pets from, no, the other page. Who gets to ascertain what's a dangerous dog? That's a really tough one to me when I read through that today. It's what came to mind is all.
I'd say if it's an aggressive dog, I know we had,
You have your dangerous dog inspector. No, that's pretty,
Okay.
I guess I wasn't supposed to say, it's
That's-
public, public comment.
no, that's a tough call.
Okay, thank you.
Dennis Hill, 1316 West Alder Place. Dan, could you, we're talking about two additions, is that correct, basically?
Two issues.
Two issues. Could you just say those out to us and let us know what those actually are?
Okay.
Okay.
The two issues that, the substantive provisions on these two issues that I'm proposing, either standalone or to beef up the existing sections. Dogs at large prohibited. It's unlawful for owners to allow their dogs to be at large, unleashed, or without restraint, except that this section shall not apply in off-leash dog parks. There's that chance we'll have one of those soon. Or where dogs are engaged in lawful obedience training, lawful hunting activity, lawful competition sanctioned by a nationally recognized body or a local chapter thereof, or lawful training in preparation for such hunting or competition. Are working dogs engaged in the herding of livestock, or are working dogs engaged in sanctioned search and rescue activities, or are in city-designated off-leash areas. So that's it. And so the definition of that we have about under control, as in off-leash or on-leash, has to be under control. Right now, it has to be means voice, signal, or physical control. And I've been told that's a very squishy thing. So what this does is you got to have them on a leash, and it refines the definition of at large to be off the premises of the owner and not under the control of the owner by leash, provided that an animal within an automobile or other vehicle of its owner shall be deemed upon its premises. So it tightens that up. It's more of an urban issue, but it still has a lot of those rural type things that come up with people's dogs. It defines lawful training as a new defined term, defines leash as a new defined term, and off-leash dog park as a new defined term. So it pins down those sorts of concepts in a more kind of urban type setting. Animal waste removal, it shall be unlawful for anyone with custody of an animal to fail to remove any fecal matter deposited by the animal on public property or private property of another before the custodian leaves the immediate area where the fecal matter was deposited, in addition to the manager of the regional animal services section. So there's reference to like the dog catcher, the animal control people. And animal care and control officers being authorized to take such lawful action as may be required to enforce this section. Police and code enforcement officers are authorized to enforce this section. Violation of this section is a civil infraction that may be prosecuted pursuant to the civil enforcement chapter with a maximum penalty for violation of $50 for each violation. Because most nuisances that we've ever prosecuted, have not been many, are sort of ongoing chronic nuisances like the zombie house, the itinerant junkyard in someone's yard, junk cars, which are ongoing. And so these are isolated incidents. So that's why the different sort of fine schedule for that. And it ropes in horses, it doesn't say dogs. So those are the two issues. And so what I would propose, the streamlined version would be plug those expanded regulatory programs into the list of nuisances. They already are there, but they aren't doing the trick. The way they're worded with the defined terms that are in the code and not in the code. So that seem fine? Good approach? Okay.
Okay, so would anybody else like to address the council? At 7:40, I'll close. What's that? At 7:40, I will close the public hearing. Okay. So we're good with that, council, to move forward? Okay, very good. Well, that's all that we have on the agenda for this evening. So with that, if I could get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. Really appreciate it.
There you go.
You're all done?
I'm
Oh,
done.
so I'm the one that has to carry those around. Actually, I'll go through them in the office. Thank you.
Is this yours?
I want to throw rocks at you.
Sorry.